be taking care of PV every day. Taking care of PV every way. We've been taking care of PV. It's all ours. Taking care of PV and investing in our town PV.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of PV in Focus. I'm Everly Chadwick, your Chief Communications Officer for the town of Prescott Valley, and I'm joined here today by our town manager, Gilbert Davidson.
It's weird being in the hot seat now, so now I've got to be able to respond to some questions.
You're usually the one asking the questions, but today we're going to switch roles so that you can give us a high-level overview about what's on the horizon for 2026. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But let's start with the good. Tell us about some of the major projects that are happening in the next few months.
Well, first, thank you for starting off with that and having me on this morning and kind of shaking up the format. But we have so many good things. We live in an incredible community, and I think that we're all blessed every day when we get up and see the beautiful sunrises and just, getting to live in this part of Arizona. So I think, first and foremost, we have a wonderful community, and we're making it better. There's some really exciting projects that some people have probably experienced recently with we started the widening of Glassford Hill Road. So from Long Look all the way north to 89A, we're going to be adding an additional 2 lanes, one in each direction. So that's going to help with traffic management and flow. But we're also making a huge investment for that connectivity for pedestrians and bicyclists. So it'll be bike lane as well as sidewalks and a multi-use path on both sides of the roadway. So this is going to be a huge improvement for our community and making sure that major thoroughfare is a safe drive, more efficient drive. But this may be kind of part of the ugly part of it. Construction is not fun. It is, there's going to be inconveniences over the next several months. Our team is going to do everything that we can to make sure that we try to minimize that. But as a reminder to everyone that's listening or watching us on this episode, plan ahead. If you know that you've got to be at a place at a certain time, you might want to leave a little bit early, just not knowing what's going on with construction on that particular day. We will be doing night work to try to minimize some of those inconveniences, but just be aware. And obviously we want people to be safe. Both our construction team and our motorists and pedestrians, we want to make sure people are safe. So just be mindful going through those construction zones.
Our construction teams are being very intentional about their schedule. They've reached out to the district so that they can work around pickup and drop-off times for both Granville Elementary and Bradshaw Mountain High School. Now, right now, most of the work is taking place around the high school and will be moving towards the elementary school as summer continues. They're even tracking bus routes, graduation dates, sporting events to try and minimize headaches. Switching gears to something that's always top of mind for our residents, water. Let's talk about some of the innovations that our crews are working on to bring new water resources to town. And by that I mean our Rainwater harvesting project, our Parjana Project. Talk a little bit more about what those are and how those are going to affect our water resources for the future.
Yeah, and let me first start with water as a topic that, everyone talks about, not only here in our community, but across the state of Arizona, across the southwest of the United States. It's we want to make sure with our communities that we've got, long-term good water supplies for all of us. And so Prescott Valley is doing some intentional things to really start to think about how do we manage those long-term water resources and capture new sources of water. And so we've got some, two projects that you just mentioned right there that are, I think, really exciting. So first we have a stormwater capture project, and what we're doing is we're retrofitting some of our larger municipal facilities that the community owns. One is here at our Civic Center campus with the library and our police department building. And it's basically like a large commercial French drain system. So it's taking the water off of the roof, getting it down below the ground into a system of pipes that then help to get that water, hopefully below the evaporation zone, and we're able to get water recharged back into the aquifer. So those are grant-funded projects, and very excited to work with the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona on that. And so we've kicked that one off. The other one is a stormwater pilot project, and this one is using a new technology, and it's a product that's called Parjana, and it almost looks like a churro. We've featured that on a previous episode with Tracy Lund, our Water Resources Advisor. But this one is the pilot project's in North PV, North Prescott Valley, and we'll have two basins, a control basin and the test basin. So the test basin will have the Parjana in it. And then we're going to alternate, we're going to fill these basins with water, so people will see water that we're going to be using to fill the basins and test how quickly does the water that has the Parjana able to drain in that basin. And again, the whole goal of what we're trying to do is to get water beneath the evaporation zone. Evaporation is an unbelievably powerful, natural process. Mother Nature literally can extract most of the rainwater that we get. So we've had some great rains recently. The vast majority of that water is going to evaporate back up into the atmosphere, and it's not going to go into the aquifer. So what we're trying to do is find ways that we can get that water beneath that zone as quickly as possible. And so this is very exciting. There's a sister pilot project that's down in Red Rock. So we are trying to test in a couple different locations. Again, it all is centered around the type of soil conditions. So we want to see how water, interacts with this new product with different soil conditions around the state. So over the next probably 2 years, we'll be doing some tests up in the North Prescott Valley, and hopefully we have some really good results. And this is something that could be replicated not only in other areas of our community, primarily in drainage basins, but this is something around the state that could be very beneficial. And we're the pioneer for it. We're literally the ones, out there trying this and seeing if this could work. And I think, as we, think about water resources, this is that kind of last frontier of rainwater and trying to make sure that we maximize and utilize every drop of it.
That's so exciting, and it's one of the many innovative things that we're trying here, right? Because you just have to look at what can we do as a town and as a region. So along those same lines, I know we're doing a lot of work with our wildlife conservation plan. With spring coming, we're hoping to see more pronghorn come back to the area. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that means, what wildlife corridors are, and how this planning is going to help create a development strategy that takes into account all of our animal and water resources for the future?
Absolutely, yeah. This is another exciting project, and I think one that hopefully is near and dear to all of us that live and love living in this community and this whole region. You've got these open grassland areas. We've got unique animal species that live in this part of the state, and we want to protect that. And I think it starts with really good planning and making sure that we've got protections in place that are going to help to guide the future of this community. If we don't start today, then things just keep getting built and added, and it starts complicating those wildlife connectivity corridors. And it's not necessarily a defined corridor, so it's not on a, if you look on a map, it's not going to have like a defined line. But it's really about how do we make sure there's that open space connectivity from mountain range to mountain range, and that we protect some of what drew all of us to this community. When you are out driving around in the community and you see these open grasslands, we want to preserve some of that. We want to make sure that future generations get to see those same things. And so this initiative is not only, internal within Prescott Valley. We're doing a lot of work on that front and really trying to transform our land development code to really begin to protect some of those spaces. But we're working in partnership with the broader region. So Yavapai County, Y-Plan, formerly known as SIMPO, City of Prescott, Chino Valley. So we're all at the table, really thinking big picture on how do we, again, protect for future generations. And so I'm really excited about this one. I think, it's going to be a work in progress. This takes many years to kind of put into place. But I think for all of us that value nature and open space, we're going to have something on the books that's going to really try to guide and protect the future as new things get built and added to our community.
It's clear that we take our role as stewards of the land very seriously for future generations. However, we have to look at the big picture. And unfortunately, sometimes there's bad, meaning there's a lot of things going on right now at the state and the federal level that may trickle down and affect our community. Can you talk a little bit about that and what things look like in the big picture in terms of budgeting and planning for the future?
I'm going to reframe it as it's challenges. In life, we all have challenges, right? And we've got to figure out how to navigate through those things. And so on the budget front, we are not an isolated, island. We're not in a vacuum where, national and state economic conditions don't affect us. So we have to pay very close attention to that. And I think, there's, national issues, whether with, some of the tariff issues and what that does for costs, and then that influences shopping behavior. So in some areas we see, prices may go down, other prices may go up. And so it changes how people are investing their dollars. At the state level, there's always, every legislative session, there's literally, hundreds of bills that get introduced related to state finances, redistributing funds from local governments back to the state government and vice versa. And so, one of them that we've been very concerned about over the past several years has been an attempt to eliminate the food tax. And I know, no one likes paying taxes. I don't like paying, I'm sure you don't like paying taxes, none of us do. But, for our community, sales tax is how we pay, the police officers, have parks, maintain our roads. So every time someone shops, in our community, that is helping to pay and maintain all of those essential services. So this food tax bill would eliminate the collection of any taxes off of food in a grocery store. And our town receives almost over $5 million from that. So you can imagine if that's taken away, we're looking at some very serious decisions that we're going to have to make, and we'll have to have a community conversation about that, of what services do we eliminate, program services that we just cannot afford. I'm a big believer that, if we're going to do the work on behalf of the people, we want to do it exceptionally well. That's one of our core services, is service excellence. So I would hate to cut everything and we do nothing really well, versus finding the things that we want to, focus on and be known as, delivering exceptional service. And I believe local government, it's about roads and infrastructure. It's about public safety, making sure that this is a safe community for everyone to live in and visit. And, I would say recreation in the broad sense, whether it's trails and multi-use pathways, things that allow people to get out and safely, recreate and connect throughout the community. So, but we'll need to have that conversation if something like that were to happen. But that's a serious threat. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But if it does, it's going to warrant a lot more discussion in this town as to, what we're going to have to do. So, there's many other bills in the legislature where that it can affect our budget. I do want to add, just another reality that we face here in Prescott Valley. And I know as a resident of the town, and I hear this from neighbors and friends and citizens all the time, what are we doing about grocery stores? What are we doing about additional retail, amenities for our community? And all that helps to generate more revenue for the town that gets reinvested, right? But here's a reality. If you look at Prescott Valley versus Prescott, Prescott has 2 Fry's stores, 2 Safeway stores, 2 Walmarts, and a Costco. And we have 1 Fry's, 1 Safeway, we do have a Sprouts, and we have one Walmart, and then no Costco. And so that creates, right off the bat, we're at a disadvantage, and so when people feel like our stores are almost overwhelmed with people at them, and so then they go to Prescott to shop, so we're basically bleeding out our sales tax to other communities, helping to support other communities. And so that dynamic we have to try to address. That's a huge challenge, and we are working really hard to try to attract some new grocers here in the community. Aldi's is now under construction. That's going to be another nice option for our consumers. But the work doesn't end. We've got to keep looking for other grocery opportunities, retail opportunities. And I think there's going to be some positive things on the horizon. There was a incentive that our town put in place a few years ago that if we could get a grocery store in North Prescott Valley, which is in desperate need of having more retail opportunities up there, or even in the Quellwood area, the construction sales tax that the builder would have to pay could be rebated back for public infrastructure, which helps to reduce some of those costs. So we've got an incentive in place to literally try to attract an amenity and a retail service that I think will better serve our community. So stay tuned on that. I think there's going to be, hopefully some positive things over the next number of months on that front. But, lots of challenges, but I think with challenges are always those, again, opportunities to overcome things or to reimagine things. I can tell you when we have budget issues that we've got to work through, it makes us be more creative. It makes us think of how do we collaborate more? How do we, do we need to do a certain service? Yeah, we've been doing it for 20 years, but is it necessary? Is it something that, people even really like anymore? So I think through the challenge can force us to also reimagine things so we deliver a better service, a better experience for our residents.
You mentioned the rising cost of construction due to tariffs and inflation, and that's a challenge we've had to weigh heavily when we look at the swimming pool at Mountain Valley Park. Last summer, the community began a serious conversation. Do we replace the existing pool? And if so, what does that look like? We've explored everything from partnering with outside operators to reimagining the space as a full aquatic and recreation center. A dedicated committee of residents and stakeholders has been digging into those options. Can you talk a little bit more about what has come out of that and how citizens are going to have a role in deciding on what amenities we have there moving forward?
We could probably spend an hour just on this topic, but let me try to I'll summarize multiple years of talking about having a YMCA here in the community. And I don't think it was so much a YMCA, it's a wonderful entity. They do incredible things for communities. I think it's really, what I've heard and through all of our community surveys and what the town council has heard over and over and over is people really wanting a better pool facility and something that's year-round. A year-round aquatics facility has, I think, been at the front and center of this whole thing. So the town council had put together a citizen committee. That committee spent many months and they dug in on this issue, and I think at the very end came up with a good set of recommendations. First is let's try to figure out the pool piece of this. Let's focus on that. And then second, let's let the community weigh in on this, on whether or not if they want to raise the sales tax to then dedicate those funds for a bigger recreation facility. So what we're currently doing is we are moving as fast as we can on that pool piece. Because I want to be really honest, and anyone that's listening, watching today, our current pool is not a great facility. It's at the end of its useful life. It's 30 some years old. And I think that you can only Band-Aid and try to fix things up so long before just the actual infrastructure needs to be replaced. And we're at that point. And we know that. And I think that anyone that's been to the pool over the last several years has seen that. We know that, and so we need to fix that. So we're going to be looking at Mountain Valley Park, where the Mountain Valley Splash is. We're going to be designing a new indoor aquatic facility. And parallel to that, there'll be a community opportunity on this whole sales tax thing. So if people want a bigger facility, a gym and any of the other amenities of a recreation center, they can decide what they want to do on that front. But at the end of the day, what we're going to end up with is at least a pool that is covered, meaning that we can use it year-round. We can have water aerobics, programs. We can have youth programs, swim lessons, and we can do it throughout the year. And I think it's going to be a wonderful community amenity when we're finished with this.
That's so exciting because it's something that really benefits people across all ages and all interest groups, as you mentioned, from water aerobics to swim teams to learning to swim to just recreating. So that's going to be something that we're all looking forward to. If
I could say, so this summer is going to be the last splash. And so it's going to be kind of a themed summer of great memories of the pool that I think many, kids and seniors and other members of our community have all enjoyed over the years. So we're going to celebrate it. It will have some limited functionality because, again, just some of the systems are at the end of their useful life. But we're gonna enjoy it, and then we're gonna kick off the building of the new aquatics facility starting hopefully early next year.
Speaking of this summer, America is celebrating its 250th anniversary, and I know there's going to be some special things going on around here. We've talked a little bit about reimagining and reinvigorating some of our events. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to this summer?
Well, I think there's several things. First, that we all get to be alive during that 250th, celebration. And, I've read, I was really young when the 200th was going on. But I just think those milestones are important, that we celebrate, that we reflect, and that we, really come together as a nation on the value and the importance of this great country and what it represents for the world. And so in our community, we're going to be doing some celebrating. And I think one of them that I'm really excited about is the Freedom Rock. We are going to be the first community in the entire state of Arizona to have what's called a Freedom Rock. It's a really unique program. There's an artist out of Iowa that started painting really large boulders. And in Iowa, every one of their counties, they have many more counties than Arizona did. I think they have 99 counties. So every county has a Freedom Rock. And so other states are now starting to have this artist go and paint these really unique images that are on a rock. And it's all about just, again, celebrating the history of our country and patriotism. And so our rock is now painted and people can see it, but we are going to have a kickoff right around 4th of July to really celebrate that. And I think, recognize, the veterans that we have in this country and the great things that, that take place throughout our community and country from that perspective. And so that's going to be one. You kind of highlighted special events. We want to weave in the 250th, celebration into some of our special events. So hopefully you're going to see some little improvements and additions that we're trying to make with certainly our 4th of July event, but some of our other bigger signature events. And so hopefully, this is again a year to celebrate. And it's going to be right before as we then start to plan for the town's 50th birthday. That's going to be in 2028, but we want to start thinking about that as well. So 250th for our country, and then starting to really think about celebrating that 50th for the town of Prescott Valley.
There's a lot of really interesting things happening in our community. What are some of the best ways for residents to stay engaged and involved in some of the key issues and projects and really dig in to learn more about what's going on around town?
Well, thank you. This is a good question. And yeah, I think, like any community, we're not, unique in this regard that there's concern, there's frustration. We hit on a couple topics in this episode of water. Water is hotly talked about issue and concerns about the future with water. Growth is oftentimes a lightning rod issue of people that are concerned where certain things may be going, or are we growing too quickly, and how do we do that? And I think that as a community we have to keep working hard, both the town government, our town employees, us, our elected officials and community leaders and residents of our community, on how do we have those conversations, and how do we try to take a complex issue and make it where we can understand it, and then try to come up with solutions on some of those differing ways to approach things. So I think there's ways that people can become more engaged in our community. It's not always about attending a council meeting, although everyone is welcome to attend a council meeting and participate via that way. But we have a Citizens Academy that I would love to plug, that is a great way to learn about the town government and community partners. We also feature, the hospital and school district and then all of our town departments on what we do, how it works. It's an opportunity where residents can dig in on questions, and it's in a safe environment. So Citizens Academy is a great one. We have a Police Academy. A lot of people, are interested in public safety. How do the police do all the things that they do? Canines is always a popular part of that one, and just the appreciation that our law enforcement, that we have as a community for law enforcement. So that is another great way where residents can dig in and learn about law enforcement and ways that they can volunteer. We have an incredible volunteer program connected to the police department, where people that may be retired or they have extra time, and they can drive around, patrol neighborhoods, do home checks and those types of things. So great ways to plug in on that front. We have a Water Academy. Again, the concern about water, we created an academy that is a shortened version of some of the other academies that we're doing, but it's an incredible way to really dig in and understand more about our water resources and what we're doing to make sure that we protect not only the quantity, the amount of water, but the quality of water and things that we're trying to make sure that we have in place on that front. We have a volunteer program for the town as well. Apart from the PD, people can volunteer at the library. They can volunteer in almost every department of the town. I met with a resident the other day who has an incredible skill set, and we're finding ways to plug that person in and actually add value to what we're going to be able to do for the residents. And so if there's someone that's spent a career doing unique things, or not even unique things, but would love to continue to be engaged and involved in the community and help to influence the future of this town, we welcome that. And there's, again, through our website, people can go and sign up to be a volunteer. But yeah, there's lots of ways that I think people can be engaged, part of the conversation. Our doors are always open, and if people want to learn more, let's say someone's upset or they heard something about something going on in the town, I am always welcoming, and I know all of our staff, all of our department heads would spend time just answering questions and really trying to listen to what the concerns are. And then sometimes one person's voice can make a huge impact in the overall community.
Another big lightning rod we hear about all the time in our community is speeding. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means and how we all need to take responsibility for staying safe?
It is an issue. We did a community survey, 2 years ago almost now, and that was one of the top issues. And I see it as driving. All of us, I'm sure, as you drive around, you see that guy or that gal that's speeding, and it's frustrating. It's concerning in neighborhood areas where people are cutting through neighborhood areas and they're making neighborhood streets that are supposed to be 25 miles per hour thoroughfares, and it's just it's not safe. It's not acceptable, and as a community, we all have to be part of the solution. The town has really started to try to approach this from a different perspective. It can't be just law enforcement. You know, law enforcement's a key part of it, obviously. When you see a police car, most of us slow down, right? And our officers are out there. They're trying to, you know, cover as much, but we only have so many people that can cover the entire town. So our officers have joined with our engineering team and with our communications team on how do we, you know, triangulate and you know, try to solve this problem or tackle this challenge from multiple different perspectives. So from an engineering perspective, it's looking at, if we have a roadway, let's say a neighborhood street, and people keep speeding down it, are there things from an engineering perspective that we could do that visually make it feel like you need to slow down? So are there, you know, center islands? Are there, you know, the striping that we use on the roadway? What are the other things that we could do that kind of, you know, help drivers be part of this solution as well? Obviously, law enforcement, we have, you know, aggressively picked up in terms of tickets and warnings. Literally over 11,000 this past year of, you know, people getting pulled over and either reminded they need to slow down or they've been given a ticket. And so we're going to continue on that front. But, you know, for people in our community, let us know. Again, we want to know if there's a particular area. That way our PD can try to, you know, come up with you know, whether it's a blitz, as kind of a speed you know, blitz, where we just kind of remind people you need to slow down. But, you know, anyone that's listening, we all play a part. If you drive a car, you have to be a part of the solution on this one. There's not only speeding, there's people that are running red lights and they think, oh, it's still yellow, I'm just going to zip on through, and then it turns red, and that's dangerous. And it can be, you know, a life, you know, you could change not only your life, but you could end someone else's life by that type of behavior. So it is an issue, and we all collectively have to be part of it. But the town, you know, the police department, our engineering department, communications is doing a lot with reminders, just those little things to let people know that we all have to be a part of this solution.
It's our town, slow it down, right?
I like that. Our town, slow it down.
Okay, well, thank you for your time today. This has been a great episode just to talk a little bit more about what's coming down the pipeline. In closing, it's easy to look at a town as just a collection of roads and buildings, but in reality, it's much more than that. It's about the people, the places, and the partnerships that make our town so special. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to having many more conversations with you in the future.
We'll be taking care of people.